Hey, welcome to the R.H.E podcast. I'm Marshall Law. This is my co-host, Isaiah Diesel. And today we have Jonathan Carroll on. Now, Jonathan Carroll is an atheist and a gamer. So what do you make of that? Isaiah, it's over to you.
I don't think you're kind of a deist. What are you? You kind of believe in God. You kind of don't.
I kind of have like my
Deist?
own way. I don't really consider myself to be an atheist. I consider I really I do believe there is a God, but I don't believe it's the traditional theist God, like as far as like what they put down. And
So
my
what,
own
am I wrong?
own experiences are with science has really kind of strengthened my view that God does exist, but it's not, as it is written in books, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you for joining us this morning. Where are you calling out of?
I'm in Phoenix, Arizona.
Phoenix. I just noticed something about you. You're like a halfway mark as far as hair between me and Marshall. No. Marshall is a halfway mark. It goes like 1, 2, 3. So Marshall's still hanging on to dear life. You might as well cut it off. And so John, we want to start this off with a little friendly fire round. So we're going to ask you just a few questions just to kind of gauge you and, just see a little bit about you, kind of ask some funny stuff. So you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you got stuck in an elevator with any historical figure and you had 20 floors to talk to them, who would it be? Besides Jesus, obviously.
Oh, I already have a person. His name is Vivian Thomas. He was a person around the 60s who was like basically like a lab technician, I guess you could say, but he helped with solving the issues with going into shock and the blue baby syndrome. And he was a man who didn't have a college degree. He had a high school degree. He was a black guy around, when things weren't great, and he kind of just pushed through and did things just for the sake of humanity, and
That's amazing.
He's one of my biggest influences.
We'll put a link to him in the video description. Marsh?
What is your favorite 80s arcade game?
Ooh.
I usually run to Pac-Man, but sometimes I like Donkey Kong.
So JC, you mind if I call you JC? Do you go by that?
I go by whatever. That's fine.
All right. I'm kind of impartial to those initials, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
So okay.
Jesus Christ.
So you're making the ultimate waffle. Okay. You can put any 3 ingredients on it. What are you putting?
Oh, I'm kind of I like pecan waffles, but I'm kind of I'm kind of weird with certain things. Like if you say, hey, I'm gonna put everything in this waffle, I'm like, I think I'll just take a regular waffle. I'm good.
Really? Wow.
Like butter, maybe a little syrup. I'm good.
Honey? You ever do honey?
No, I've never done honey on a waffle.
It's good. Marsh?
All right. So what's the best Wi-Fi name you've ever seen? Or you can make one up.
Best I've seen one that said leave me alone. There was one Wi-Fi that said that when I used to live. Somebody had the USS 1701-D one time.
My cousin's is FBI surveillance.
There you go. Yeah, I did Hillary Clinton's secret server one time.
Okay, so Jonathan, just before we start, we want to hit you with something a little bit random, but I want you to say the biggest coincidence that's ever happened in your life, and I want to go first because I doubt you'll ever meet someone who's had a bigger coincidence than this. Okay, but do you know the movie Abraham Lincoln, a Vampire Hunter?
The book's really good. Yes, I've seen the movie too.
Okay, so that movie was coming out, and I was going down to meet my girlfriend, and I was like 20 minutes early. And so I was like, okay, I got to kill 20 minutes. So I just pulled into this random movie theater, and I walk up and there's 1,000 people there and the whole cast is there. I couldn't believe it. I was totally floored whenever because it's a random spot, the exact time. I was there within like 10 minutes. They all came out. So that's crazy.
Like I'm a big comic book buff. I know we're supposed to be talking about video games, but I'm a big comic book person. And
no, that's fine.
We went to a comic book store one time, and there was a comic book called Johnny the Homicidal Maniac, and the writer of that and the illustrators like doesn't usually appear, and he was there.
Oh.
It was just random walking into the store, and all of a sudden we're like, oh, there's Yonan Vasquez just kind of standing there.
Wow, awesome.
Yeah, I don't know if I have any strange coincidences in my life. Maybe that's a coincidence, right?
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think. I know that some things have happened in my life that are like, oh wow, that's kind of rare. But as far as a coincidence, I'm just not sure. I think one time I was outside and I was commenting to somebody about the International Space Station, and then we looked up and there it actually was. It's kind of recognizable. Yeah. And the odds of that are a little slim. It's not impossible. But there's a number of things that have to go right in order for you to spot that. And for me to be basically pontificating about it to somebody, as I sometimes do, because I'm a nerd. And then, just to have it, I'm like, oh, look, there it is. That was actually kind of a cool moment. So, yeah.
So I want to say one more that I read about. I think I read about it, but it's very similar to what you're talking about. But these people in the UK, they're on a train and they're talking about this actor, and the guy's like, oh, I can't put his name. I can't remember what his face looks like. And it's just as they said that the guy walked through the door. Okay. So that's a pretty big coincidence in and of itself. But sometime like 6 years later, the guy's having the same exact conversation with someone else. And he's like, hey, I was in this exact spot and I had mentioned this guy, and the guy walked in again. So some stage actor or whatever. So anyway, can you tell us briefly, John, what your thoughts are on God?
Well, I mean, briefly, I believe, that there is one. I kind of call him the ultimate scientist, if that makes sense. Like, because there's like a lot of things in this universe that are. It's like I'm trying to think of how to describe it well enough to be kind of coherent. Yeah, because it's like everything is chaotic, but everything's perfect in its chaos. It's kind of like a nice even balance that without one there isn't the other. And there's some things there's some things that are just too coincidental, in my opinion, to be like just randomly happen. Like cells in our body, how they basically came about and how they actually work. And there's a bunch of reasons why.
Right.
I may be going off track.
No, that's great. I think you told me a little bit about forensics.
Yeah,
your experience with it.
I originally started when I was in college I've been in college for too long. I originally started in forensic science. I really enjoyed it, but I wanted to go into defense. I didn't really like the prosecution side. I like the defense side a lot more. And there's a lot of stipulations with that. And it's a really hard field to get into. Because there's just there's not a lot of job opportunities. There's just a lot of people that are already employed in it. So that's one of the reasons why I ended up having to leave. But the science behind it, like low cards exchange principle, which is basically you take something from one area and bring it to the next. You don't really think about it when it happens. But like you can have a cat at home and you take that hair and then you walk into a grocery store and the hair falls off. That's the exchange principle. But I learned a lot about like how to photograph fingerprints and what to look for even looking for fingerprints, blood splatter analysis, footprints, shoe print and tire track analysis. I learned that too. And
wow.
I used to work for I do still do work for a pathologist and basically assisting in autopsies. And I used to do case files with him where I would go through defense cases and piece the crime scene, piece the evidence, piece the autopsy together, and basically come up with a theory of what I think transpired.
That's in. Hang on here. Hang on, Jonathan. Do you think you could help me with something? We'll talk after the show. All right, go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead, guys.
I think he's saying you pulled a Dexter. So
somebody actually used to call me Dexter.
Oh, that was like my favorite show. I love that show, Dexter. But so Jonathan, so what are your thoughts on Jesus and or the Bible?
Well, I mean, I think that a lot of things in the Bible may have been maybe lost in translation or lost in even like interpretation even still as well. I mean, my thoughts of Jesus are that I think that his message is ultimately lost in uncertain things because he preaches love and peace towards one another, but then people use that for other means like financial gain or whatever, and that's kind of like not really what he was saying. But I think a lot of his words are misinterpreted. I mean, like there's things that he do and doesn't say that we just kind of either don't pay attention to it or we
yeah absolutely. Actually, so you've heard the quote, money is the root of all evil. You've heard that quote before?
Oh yeah.
So that's part of a larger quote that says we brought nothing into the world and we can take nothing out of it. And the love of money, that's what it says. It says the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. So people say the money is the root of all evil. The Bible doesn't say that. It says the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. I mean, violence doesn't have anything to do with money. If you like to rape or kill people, it's not money. So you can't say that everything's related to money, but certainly a lot of things are. But it says that it says, having food and clothes, let us be content. And I actually got that scripture tattooed on my arm. But yeah, so you think would you maybe consider yourself like a deist, like God's just out there somewhere and doesn't really interact with us?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we're kind of left to our own devices and our own decisions. Like, like it's kind of like we have paths that we can choose and we're the ones responsible for it. And I don't think, I do think that there may be some signs of divine intervention. I haven't really seen 100% concrete evidence of it, but for the most part, we have to make our own decisions and be responsible for them. Blaming God for something that is something that you did is just kind of idiotic.
Irresponsible.
Yeah, I just want to ask, since we're on the topic of Jesus and God, is Jonathan, do you feel that Jesus is just a patch, or is he DLC? Because to the Jews, he's DLC, but to Christian, he's the patch.
DLC?
Ooh, that's
as a gamer. Yeah, as a gamer, right? When a
downloadable
game
content.
comes, as a gamer, if there's something broken, you get a patch, right?
You guys
that
lost
patch
me
is
there.
a software program. Are you not a gamer, Isaiah?
I'm the only person here with an active social life, so no, I don't game. And I was gonna say, speaking of choices, you apparently are a 40-year-old man who still plays computer games or video games. So, first, what was your first game console?
Atari 2600.
I had the Atari, and then I had the Sega Genesis, and Sega Genesis.
I got
was
you
amazing.
guys beat. I got you guys. My big sister had the original Pong, but my game console was the Odyssey 200.
No idea what that is.
Complete knockoff. It's like the cheap version of the Atari. Complete knockoff. We only had 2 games. Okay, so it was pretty sad.
Growing up, we were always kind of a console behind, So like when Nintendo was up, we had the Atari, and then when the Sega came out, I had the Sega Master System, and then so we were always kind of like a console behind because I didn't, my parents didn't have a lot of money.
Yeah.
So,
do you know about the gaming here in South Korea?
I do not.
Wow. Okay. So this is no lie. I could walk down the street right now, and within about 10 minutes, I'll run into about 5 PC. They call PC bongs, but they're PC rooms. And what it is a bunch of single guys who stay in there until 4 or 5 o'clock, or sometimes later in the morning. Now it's basically like $1 an hour, but they get you because if you pay $10, you get how many hours, Marshall? You want to take a guess?
I would say 12.
12. Wow, good guess. All right, so if you pay $20, how much you get, John?
Well, if you get, that would be probably 24.
25. They want to give you that. Anytime they're doing that, they always want to give you that extra incentive. So, right. So then you could pay like $40 though and get like 50. And people do it because actually, whenever you walk up, you can see the people's times on there, So you can see this guy's been here for like, dude, you've been here for the last 2 days eating top ramen, dude. Like people have died because of that. Like something about your heart, like you can't get the proper. But they do it all night, man. They do it for like days on end. So, do you think that you can get taken away overboard with it?
Oh yeah, I mean, with anything, yeah, you can go overboard with it.
Mm-hmm.
It's all a matter of self-control.
Mm-hmm.
And basically being like, well, I've been here for 6 hours. I think maybe I need to get up and do something because or. I've been here for 6 hours. Do I have anything to do? No. Okay, well, continue to go.
At least you're being honest.
Well, I want to. I'm gonna throw out there. I am gonna be 47 here very, very soon, and I am also a gamer, a big PC gamer. I love flight sims. I love grand strategy titles. So I am right there with you, Jonathan. But I want to ask, what do you use for gaming, and what do you like to play?
So mainly I use a PC. I have consoles, but I'm like my parents. They're older consoles. I have a PlayStation 3, which is like the newest one I have, and I think I just acquired an Xbox 360 that I got at a yard sale. So I am, because some of the consoles are really expensive, and I'm like, I go to look at them, some of them are $500. I'm like, well, I could buy a $500 console, or I can upgrade my computer to play even faster games, and I'd much rather upgrade my computer. That's just me. But I mean, the main games, yeah, and that's actually, I think I'm lowballing it if I have to look at them again, because I usually see that first price and I get it out of my head, because I have a lot of consoles. And it drives my wife nuts, but I have a lot of old consoles and stuff too. But
you ever think about just stealing them, Jonathan? It's a lot cheaper to just steal.
No, I'm good.
Okay,
I don't want to go to jail
good.
for a game console.
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna say,
do they really lock people up for that anymore?
I was gauging you because if you would have said yes, I would have been like, it's time to get some professional help, Jonathan. So I was tricking you.
But the games I mainly play right now are I got back into playing R.H.E again. I have a lot of hours in that game. I got back to playing, like I play. There's a game called The Binding of Isaac. I play Marvel, but I also play like Marvel Puzzle Quest. If I have a few minutes that I need to unwind. Star Citizen is one I've been playing a lot that I enjoy. That's really my main focus. I mean, I have a long list of games on Steam because I love Steam. And every now and again, I'll go, oh, I haven't played this game in a while, and I'll play it for a while. And
I have no idea what you guys are talking about. So,
he's speaking my language, man. I'm right there.
So I'm gonna go to the next question. This is out of courtesy. I'm asking you these because I really don't have any interest in any of this stuff.
Oh,
but I do want to be polite. But on a serious note, do you think that games fulfill brain needs for input, for reward and or accomplishment?
Oh yeah, I mean, there's certain games that, like, there's this old game I still play every now and again called Shivers, and the whole thing is about puzzles, and so you have to work your brain to basically remember something that you saw and then put it into a puzzle and work it. And some of those puzzles are really hard, and they're like constant brain teasers, and it keeps the mind going,
So you must feel really good after you do it then.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
some of those
So,
puzzles I got, and I was like, ha ha, and
yeah,
nobody else cared.
and I was thinking, I was just gonna say, that must be really exciting when you go to explain it to your imaginary friends.
Yeah, I have had a friend that I've known since like 7th grade, and we used to play that game together. And I called him immediately after and said, I finally got that puzzle. Like, you know, we've been
Awesome.
playing that game for such a long time, and I called him up, was like, I finally did it.
Awesome. Actually, no, I'm just joking because I actually
It's
went
fine.
through
You can joke.
a divorce 10 years ago, but we actually reunited after 5 years divorce. So I've been remarried about 4 years now, but I would get up when I was getting divorced. I would get off of work and I would go to those PC rooms and just chain smoke there, and it was like therapeutic for me. I also did some stand-up comedy, helped me cope with what I was going through, but I can understand why people do it for sure. And especially if you're married, just to have a few hours away from the wife. It's like fishing for me.
Yeah, I usually
Marsh?
have to wait till the kids go to bed.
Yeah, which brings you to the next question I had, which is, hey, man, why gaming? Why not cars or sports or hiking or WWF? Why gaming?
I mean, I need to get an old car, but I actually do work on cars too. At least I used to.
Mm.
But I like older models a lot more. I'm not really into sports, and it's funny because like my perception on sports is that I think it's a waste of time. Where somebody who watches sports thinks that gaming is a waste of time. It's all kind of a matter of like taste, I guess. Yeah, perspective. The other thing I was actually going to mention is the other console I play on is called is called the Raspberry Pi. I don't know if you've heard of that, Marshall, but
Yeah, I have.
I
Yeah,
have
yeah.
right here. This is
Let
my
me see.
Raspberry Pi.
That looks like a Nintendo
Like an old,
64.
yeah,
No,
old
Super
Super
Nintendo.
Nintendo.
Super
Yeah.
Nintendo.
Nintendo.
Yeah, this is the
Actually,
case that it's in.
Super Nintendo had my favorite all-time game, which is A Link to the Past. That game was like what I think of
Oh,
in
that's
my
a good game.
childhood, because I remember being so immersed into that and feeling so connected to the character that it really does make you feel like you're in there, you know, and really like, oh, I don't want to die. I don't want to let Link down, or I want to get Zelda or whatever. But that being said, okay, two questions. You can answer them back to back. But is there any link to violence in gaming and real life? And how much is too much gaming in a day?
I don't necessarily know if there is a link between violence. I think in a lot of senses, some games actually gets that violent tendencies out of you
Mm.
because you can get into like I'm gonna use Grand Theft Auto because that was like the big thing. So you get into Grand Theft Auto 5 and you steal a car from somebody and drive around and start shooting people. You get a lot of that, you know, anger and that violent tendencies out, even though you're on a game. You know, that at least that's what I kind of think of it sometimes. But I mean, anything can really be considered to be violent, whether it's music or movies or
Yeah, that's true.
and some people take it to ridiculous levels and start shooting up places and doing crazy things, or some people are just like, that's a fantasy and this is real life, you know?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So how much is too much?
I think that's all just depending on, well, I mean, if it's starting to take over your life, you know,
Mhm.
so if you're basically not going to work or you're not eating or you're not bathing because you're just gaming all the time, you know, when it becomes like a big problem, I think that's when it's too much.
That's obviously does not make sense, because if that were the case, South Korea would be like Iraq, man, because people would be blasting each other every day here. And you just simply don't see that. So that totally destroys that argument. But second, I couldn't believe this when I saw this, but they actually have something kind of like a re-education camp here for the kids. That's kind of a bad word to say, but it's for kids who game like 16 to 20 hours a day. Okay, so basically, this is so bad, but yeah, so their parents send them here. It's kind of like a fat camp. I should say it's maybe the equivalent of like a fat camp, right? They go there for summer and they teach them to be like, so, because that's the problem, is that obviously if you're doing it that much, you have no social life, right? So they want the kids to interact and to get off. And man, I remember one of these kids, they're interviewing him and he's like, yeah, he's like, I really see the benefit of all this, because they make him exercise and do like skiing and stuff, just fun stuff, And he's like, yeah, he goes, I really think I could get down to 8 hours a day if I really like apply myself. And I was like, wow, that's like cutting his time in half, So as you know,
Well,
everything can cause some kind of problems if you get overboard with it, right?
right, and it's just like any addiction. Like if you do it too much, it can become a problem. Sometimes you just need to take yourself away and get more self control towards it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, look at people who hang out at bars all day,
Mm-hmm.
or the clubs, or the people who go online and visit adult websites all day, or
Mm-hmm.
the people who just sit and watch TV. They watch hour after hour of
Mm-hmm.
news, the news
Yeah.
show, certain channels. Is it really that much different? If anything, I think gaming activates the brain, it stimulates
Mm.
the mind, which is kind of my thing. Like, I cannot stand to passively sit and just absorb something. Now, I can read a book. I enjoy that.
Mm-hmm.
But just sit and watch TV all day, I can't stand that, especially with commercial advertising. I
Mm.
have to engage my mind, which is why I like gaming, because it gives my brain problems to solve. I'm working, I'm doing something. I feel like I'm building something, even though it's only in a virtual realm.
And Marshall, you told me that you test games or something.
Oh, well, those are strategy war games. But yes, I've had kind of a side gig on in
Nice.
game development. So there's a few war games out there that have my name on them as a
Wow,
developer.
that's
So
awesome.
yeah, but basically, a person will design a strategy war game. My job is to play that game over and over and over, break it, find holes and flaws in the rules, then recommend changes to those rules to fix those holes before the game is published.
So okay, that's awesome. So another question. Actually, this isn't a question. I just want to tell you a coincidence because we're talking about coincidences. And you ever watch those like creepy video channels or coincidence channels or stuff like that on YouTube?
Yeah,
There's creepy stories. There's some really good ones out there. And
the
one
ghost
of this
cars.
guy, what?
The ghost car. Go ahead.
Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff, but they do like real life mysteries. Well, one of this guy was talking about all these mysteries, or like, yeah, he was talking about coincidences and stuff. And he told this story that he was playing Grand Theft Auto and he was out like randomly just mowing people down, riding over them just for the fun of it. And he said, as he was doing it, he just heard some screaming, and he looked outside, and like a woman had gotten ran over like right in front of him. And so he said like he freaked out. He's like, I vowed like never to do that. Not that there was any kind of connection, but I guess he just felt bad about it, So do you think that professional gaming is a legitimate career? And before you answer that, I've seen some videos where these guys they dress up like with uniforms and they have coaches, and the coaches is like blowing his, it's one of the most pathetic things I've ever seen in my life. But I shouldn't say that. These guys are making like hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. So what do you think?
I mean, yeah, I do think it's actually a professional, the career. Because I mean, if you really think about it, because like what you're just saying, where you have like people coming in with shirts and the coach is blowing a whistle, the first thing I think of is bowling. And most people don't think of bowling as a professional career, but it's a professional career.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But I think it's like it depends on, anything can really be a profession. You can do like there's people like the podcast you guys could do. This could end up being like a big time career where this is solely what you guys do. And some
Mm-hmm.
people may think it's ridiculous, but it is something that you can do to make money. And
Okay.
if you enjoy it, then why not?
Why do you think that South Korea produces some of the best gamers in the world? And have you ever see those tournaments like on TV? I mean, it's literally like the NBA, dude. They have here in South Korea, they have whole arenas and flashlights and strobe lights, and it's amazing. It's like a rock concert. But why do you
I,
think they're coming out of South Korea?
I mean, I'm not sure about South Korea. I'm not sure if they if there's a reason for it, like if they don't have a lot of sports, or maybe it's embraced more in South Korea than it is really anywhere else. Like maybe the professional gaming community is embraced more like as a popular thing. Like, oh, that guy's a basketball player in the U.S. and you go there and that guy's a freaking professional gamer. You know, kind of celebrity type.
Actually,
you know. And I have seen a couple of them, mostly the ones where they've been caught cheating, which I think is kind of funny because I don't know how they think they can get away with it in that kind of setting. But there's been ones I've saw where they've cheated to try to beat the tournament.
Speaking of which, you must have loved the movie Pixels or Pixels.
I've actually been meaning to watch that. I haven't watched it yet.
Oh my god!
I know.
Marshall, cut the feed. Cut the feed.
Okay. All right. Thanks, guys.
That's ridiculous.
I want to chime in, but go ahead, Isaiah. I'm cutting you off.
No, I'm not a gamer. I think gaming is ridiculous, but that movie is hilarious.
I want to speak to that. I want to challenge that, Isaiah, because the thing is I think play is a critical component of how our brains develop. I think it is actually the primary occupation that children should have. They should play far more than they do almost anything else. And I think adults should play frequently and often as well, because it's natural for the brain to do that. It allows the brain to synthesize things, to make new connections. I really think it's critical to our development. And this whole idea that play is associated with laziness or sloth is simply sort of this capitalist idea that is based in the fact that if you're playing, you're not working and making someone else rich. And I think we really have to attack this, because I think the stigma against play is actually it's designed to kind of subjugate us and to compel us to, put on the uniform, go to work until you're tired, go to bed, get up the next day and work again. And again, it all serves somebody else's interest. It doesn't serve your own interest. To me, play is almost a revolutionary act, because what we're doing is we're saying, no, I want this time for myself. I want it for my family. I want to go out and do things that give me pleasure for the sake of pleasure, regardless of whether or not they generate income. And if you don't like it, too bad. Freedom.
Jonathan, speaking of which, what would you say, maybe just give me the top 3 reasons why you personally game?
I mean, I mainly game to relax, and because sometimes, it engages the mind, but it also helps the mind relax, because my mind is constantly like moving. And sometimes I need to have a focal point for it to kind of slow things down. And it depends on the game, but a lot of the times it is just to kind of slow things down a bit and relax. And it's funny because, like you were saying, like the sitting on the TV, like I can't watch TV without doing something else. Like something has to be going. Like I have to be doing something else. So. Yeah, generally that's what I use it for, is mainly just relaxation. If I've had a really stressful day and I need to go on to do something real quick, I'll go and get on it and I'll relax. I'll work my mind more in a controlled setting, I guess is a good word for it. Marshall, do you think? Is that a good word?
Yeah, I think good. So. And I just like it because, hey, I might see an airplane. I actually live in a place where there's a lot of military aviation. And I think, man, that must be something else. And then I come and I put on my VR and I fire up Digital Combat Simulator and I fly. I even build missions for other people to fly in there.
Wow.
It's super cool.
Do you play War Thunder?
I don't, because it's too simple for me. So I like Digital Combat Simulator because all the switches in the cockpit work. And wow. like you have to do everything according to the actual procedures, starting up the plane from cold, just sitting on the tarmac. All of that has to be done. But to me, like you've mentioned, it allows your brain to kind of go into this zone, because otherwise my brain's going a mile a minute. It's like herding hamsters, and that the gaming calms that. it tamps it down and helps me to harness my brain. And then when I put that away, I can stop and kind of think about something else and focus on that and make progress. So it helps me.
So I personally have that same exact problem. I think it's like a form of ADD. And so for me personally, when I'm stressed out or I have too many things on my mind, what I do is clean. And so when I was going through the divorce and all that stuff, I just used to go and clean my friends' houses. They loved it. I'd go in and spend 2 or 3 hours, and I'd walk out of there. I'm like, man, that's like a form of meditation right there. I left there feeling so good. I want to do a quick friendly fire round with you, just about gaming. Okay. So you ready?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So if you got stuck in one game, what would be the one game you would not want to get stuck in? Because you're going to die.
Super Ghouls and Ghosts.
Is it scary?
It's a Super Nintendo game, and to me, it was one of the hardest Super Nintendo games I've ever played in my life. And you're basically, I don't know if you've ever played Ghouls and Ghosts, Marshall, but you're like a knight and you sit there and you throw lances, and if you get hit by zombies or whatever, your armor completely falls out and you're running around in your underwear. And then if you get hit again, you die. And and Super Ghouls and Ghosts was like really hard. So if I woke up and I was a Super Ghouls and Ghosts, like, well, I'm dead, because this isn't gonna happen. Like, this isn't gonna go well.
Marsh,
what game do you think you have the most hours in?
I actually, and it was funny because like R.H.E, I didn't even realize how many hours I have into that game.
Steam tracks it.
Yeah. R.H.E I have 639 hours into.
Wow.
And then like Binding of Isaac, I have 806 hours into that game.
Jesus.
Okay.
That's a month.
Yeah.
That's a full month. That's more than a month. That's 33 days.
I mean, it's not all at once. I've had these games for a long time, but and some of the games, like, you get so into it that you have to be like, okay, I have to take a step away from this and actually do other things, because sometimes I can get obsessed with things and I have to control that. That's my own personal problem. So I get obsessed with things.
What character would you want as the best man, assuming you weren't married already, but if you're going to get married again, what character would you want as your best man? Not Link. Man. Everyone's going to want Link, but besides Link.
God, I had to think about that one. Which one would I want as my best man? The one that keeps coming to mind is Kirby. But he would eat everything.
Yeah, so I was going to say, wasn't he like a circle? He's like a circle.
Yeah, he's like a pink circle, but he would eat everything in the entire banquet hall. So I would get kind of mad at that. But yeah.
What if a particular game universe were real and you had to live in it, which one would it be?
Hyrule, definitely Hyrule. I'm going for Hyrule because I'm a Link fan.
The actual world I think would be kind of easy and cool to live in would be Minecraft, because you can build whatever the heck you want, as long as it's square. But it would be awesome just to be able to go, I'm going to go ahead and build an addition onto my house. So let me go ahead and punch this tree and get the wood and build it up. And I think Minecraft would probably be the one I would pick.
Normally talk about God in these things, but I think in life, we're all just looking for something, looking for some kind of affirmation. Or Dale Carnegie says that everybody wants to have a sense of importance, so people look to that for different ways. I mean, I love bowling. I have actually so much fun bowling. Like literally, I go bowling by myself, and it's a lot of fun. But we are, talking about some things in kind of a comedic fashion. But I can tell you very personally, when all those things were swirling through my mind and my life was kind of falling apart and I really didn't know where to go. I didn't look to God. I didn't find God to many years after that. There's this expression I hear that's really good. And it says, if you're searching after the truth, like you don't need to look hard because it's going to find you. So JC, I mean, I can tell you beyond any reasonable doubt that I've had an experience. It's changed my life. And the things that you say about Jesus Christ that people don't follow, that's not at all like a reflection of the things that are in the Bible or things that Jesus said. It's like, it's the opposite of it. There's a term for that. Marshall, do you know what it is? Where it's like the opposite? And it came up a lot in the evil God thing. And I just can't think of it right now. It means like when you lack something.
Mm.
No, does it start with a P?
Well, no, that's paradox.
No, not paradox.
But that's not, yeah, I don't know. Other big words that start with a P, like,
maybe it's not even a P. Anyway, it has to do with when you're trying to define what is good and what is bad. And then you're saying like, okay, well, evil is just the absence of good. And we're actually having this conversation briefly with Darrington, your friend. And we're not going to solve that issue in one podcast, but I can definitely say that the things that everybody dislikes about Christianity is the things that people don't actually follow about Christianity. So I know
no, go ahead, please continue.
No,
I've
please.
cut you off. And well, I mean, I can tell you my own experiences with Christianity because I was raised Christian.
Mm-hmm.
And where I kind of had to go on my own path to try to figure out my own thing just because I couldn't find it in the church. My family was kicked out of the church that I was in when I was about, because my parents got a divorce, the Southern Baptist, and they didn't agree with that. And I remember I used to ride my bike 2 miles to go to the church every Sunday because I liked it. Mm-hmm. And I went in there one day and the pastor in the middle of a sermon stopped, looked at me and says, "You need to get out right now. You're not allowed here anymore." And that was it.
Wow. You're serious?
Serious. I was like 8 or 9 years old.
Okay, I have to apologize on behalf of, well, I'm not a Baptist or anything like that, but that's insane. Apology. That's positively. No. What do you think about that, Marshall?
Yeah, I wouldn't even accept that apology. Absolutely not. That's abuse. That's abuse. Yeah. There should be a consequence for that. That's unacceptable in any universe. That makes me furious.
And I was really devoted. Like I was in like places where you had to memorize scripture, and I was kind of trying to do analysis on certain things, even when I was real little. And after that happened, I tried to go to other churches. I didn't find any connection there. And so I basically thought, now I have to basically find my own way to figure out how life really goes. And it was a long road. I've studied all different types of religions. I looked in all different types of what they consider to be quote unquote truths. And I came to my own conclusion. And in reality, like there's like my wife's Christian, there's people I know who are Christian. And I don't condone them. I just tell them to be careful who you're around with it, because some people, I believe, use Christianity as a shield. Mm-hmm. And I tell you, one of my lessons is that whenever somebody says I'm a good person because I'm a Christian, I'm less likely to trust that person.
Oh, yeah.
Because a good person doesn't have to use an excuse or put something up front to say or be a good person. They just are.
Mm-hmm. Preach the gospel at all times, and if necessary, use words. Mm-hmm. It should be obvious.
The word I was looking for is privation, which means like the lack of the other thing. But that being said, if you're going by the biblical definition, like we're all really in the same place. You and I are both in a homeless shelter, and I have this cup for some free coffee, and you have this small cup, and I come and I get more. I'm still a freaking beggar, and I'm still homeless. All I can say is that I got more grace than you. And so I went down my route searching after the things in the world, and Jesus Christ eventually found me. But as I said, if you keep searching, I believe that Jesus Christ is going to find you, bro. So that being said, really want to thank you for your time, John. I'm going to be thinking about that, that last thing that you told me for a really long time, probably all through this weekend. So just shows me how much more important my work is. It's what I'm doing with this and trying to be a light and demonstrate God's love that he's shown me, mercy he's shown me. And but I really appreciate you hearing your story. And I apologize that you do so much gaming, because there's a beautiful world out there.
Well,
Just kidding. Just kidding.
And there's beautiful world in games. Like, I've seen some amazing
I'm
things that you would be able to always be able to see.
I'm joking. This is 100% satirical with what I'm telling you.
Well,
it's joking.
No, go ahead.
No, just because I live in South Korea, so I can guarantee you, I could walk in there right now and you'll see guys there with top ramen after top ramen after top, with Coke and Snickers and everything from stacked up like this high, man. You'll see it there, and then you see these guys. This guy's been here for 50 hours right now.
You should take a picture or two of that and post it on our page. I'd like to see some of that.
Okay, I will.
That would
I will
actually be hilarious.
This thought just kind of popped in my head too about the different religions and stuff like that I try to scope out. And have you ever been to a Pentecostal church? I don't know if you're Pentecostal.
Pentecostal.
Are you Pentecostal?
Oh yeah.
So one of the churches I went to, they were singing, and I recognized it because I went to one of the places I worked at. There was a guy who was Jewish. He was a German Jew, and he was showing me the music, and that's the music that they were singing, but they changed the words. And I said, it's kind of like, I guess this is a coincidence, because I'm like, they're singing Jewish songs about Jesus. And somebody's like, well, what's the point of, what do you mean? I'm like, well, you don't see the kind of the thing Jews don't, with Jesus. Never. And I was like, never mind. Like, it was just interesting to me. I'm sorry, that thought just popped in my head.
No, thank you.
No worries. Jonathan, I think gaming is awesome. I think it's a fantastic hobby and pursuit. I personally think it's worthwhile. I think it has value. I think it's probably better to other activities that people could engage in, such as drinking, doing drugs, hanging out at the bar, engaging in all these other kinds of vices or criminality. And I actually think it's healthy. I don't even want to say it's better. Not only is it a better alternative, I think it's healthy. I think it helps people to grow and develop and synthesize, see the world with a better perspective. I think it's one of the greatest things that we can do. And it's also consistent with our human nature. So I just want to say thank you for coming on here and being an ambassador for gaming. I think it's fantastic. And all I can say, man, is, hey, game on.
Right.
Well, we appreciate your time, and we look forward to seeing you back on the next episode of R.H.E. podcast. And thanks for joining us.